have with us Ms. Nikhol Atkins. She is a longtime NAACP volunteer member and currently a member and community mobilizer with AFT Michigan, and Mr. Terrance Martin, who is the new Executive Vice President of Detroit Federation of Teachers. And we thought it would be very fitting today to have them come out and discuss many of the things that are going on in the classrooms and the situations that are happening with teachers. As you know, the NAACP has always been a stalwart for education, but this year has been at our top priorities dealing with education in the city of Detroit. So I thought it would be appropriate to have them come out and just really give you, and not in this point, I don't want to say preaching to the choir, but even we can have new updates about what's going on. Some things may have gotten better. Some things may still need work. And so that's what they're going to be here discussing with us today.
We represent, again, pre-K through 12, teachers and support staff, university professors, and graduate employees. And as I stated, we have community college instructors and admin employees. And we also have credit union employees across the state. The work we do is we organize the unorganized. I know some folks have various feelings about charters. We organize them because we understand that regardless of what the administration is doing or the management is doing, we understand that it's important to have good staff because regardless of how you feel about charters, our children go to them and they need stable environments, and we need help create stable working environments and conditions. We also work with our locals, and Terrance can elaborate on that a little later. We also work with our locals to ensure that they're strong locals. Some folks think you just pay your dues and you just walk away. No, you have to continue to maintain a strong local in order to have good working conditions. And the state and the national provide support for those things. In terms of helping folks organize around issues, in terms of helping folks get the word out, in terms of training folks and helping folks talk to their members on what they can and should be talking about. And as many of you know, we had the painful experience of going right to work first, right? And so I don't know if any of you know about the Friedrichs case that's going to the Supreme Court and will likely be heard this summer. But what that case is going to mean, if it is successful, is that all public employees in this great United States will be right-to-work employees. And that is a very scary thought. Fortunately or unfortunately, Michigan is a little ahead of the curve, and we already are getting the feel of what it feels like to be right-to-work. And so that could be a good thing or a bad thing. Our brothers and sisters in the South have been experiencing that for some time, and this is just every day to them. So it may just make our muscles stronger because we've gotten a little lax in terms of that. We also deal with political action. Because without political action and legislative advocacy, I'll put those in the same box, we can't get anything done and we get to the place where we have right to work. And so part of what my direct duties are as a member and community mobilizer, because that is my title, is to engage the members around political issues, to engage the members around social justice issues, and to keep them abreast of what's going on. And so again, that brings me to what my title is, member and community mobilizer. And one of my primary responsibilities is to engage the community. And folks, this is kind of a new buzzword in unions, but unions could never have been without community. A lot of organizing happened in the basement of churches and in community centers and things of that nature. And so we're just going back to what we always knew and just doing it in a more thoughtful and less transactional way. The current focus for AFT is, again, strengthening locals who are fully right to work, who will be fully right to work in another year, so at the end of this school year. Some folks went right into right to work, but because of the contracts, they'll be coming up on it, and we have to function differently than we have in the past. DFT will tell you they were big and mighty at one point, and due to people leaving the city, due to the erosion of the I'm trying to pick my words carefully. The erosion of the school system in Detroit, having EAA and having charters, has destabilized education in Detroit. And because of that, you have less students in schools. And so, DFT could show up just being DFT with 10,000 and demand to be heard. That is no longer the case, and so we have to do things differently. We also don't have the power that we used to have in Lansing. There used to be equity and a balance of power in Lansing at one time. We no longer have that, and so we have to do things differently. And so that's a large part of what we do. Again, one of the things we're currently focused on is contracts. A lot of folks, contracts will be up, not just in Detroit, but all over the state. And so that's a large part of what the staff is doing in our office. And our top goals, because we do set goals and plans, despite what some people think. We do set goals and plans, and one of our, I'll say 4 of our top priorities are protect our statutory collective bargaining rights, which I just mentioned, and public education from further erosion, solidify and strengthen our partnerships with community and other unions, increase charter density, because as I mentioned before, we are about organizing the unorganized wherever they are, and maintaining an 82% density in an open shop. And what an open shop essentially means is your right to work, right? The postal union employees know what operating in an open shop is because they've always had to do it. Folks in the South know what that means, but us in Michigan, have to get more familiar with that because we haven't really been organizing and organized in such a long time that our muscles have gotten a little weak, and so we got to build them back up, and so that's our primary focus. I've invited Terrance when I got the invitation because I am not a teacher. As I mentioned, my background is political and engaged in the community, but Terrance has been a classroom teacher. He has worked at the Detroit Federation of Teachers as a labor relations rep, and so he can tell you better than I about the day-to-day that's going on in the classroom. So I'm going to turn over to Terrance.
Well, it's way more interesting to talk about my upbringing and my background than some of the topics I'm going to discuss today. But again, my name is Terrance Martin. I'm the Executive Vice President of the Detroit Federation of Teachers. Prior to my appointment, I was a Labor Relations Administrator for the DFT. Among some of my responsibilities was also doing some of the community work that Nikhol does, as well as political, not just for the DFT, but for all 3 Detroit unions that are represented within DPS. So Nikhol wanted me to come here to talk about some of the things that are happening within DPS, and particularly the things that affect teachers on a day-to-day basis. As many of you know, we're currently under emergency management, and we have been for the last 12 to the last 14 years under some sort of emergency management. And so currently, right now, we're going through, fighting the healthcare increases. As many of you may have heard, we marched on Lansing last Tuesday in conjunction with many of our sister locals and community folks against the healthcare cuts that are being imposed on us. We were in a meeting with the current emergency manager, Darnell Early, who asked us for $1.7 million in healthcare cuts. And as you can imagine, the hardship that this will put on many of our members having to make life decisions. I think probably for the first time having to make life decisions. Do I purchase my medication that's going to keep me healthy, or do I put that money towards putting food on the table? And so these are the kind of decisions that folks are having to make because of these potential health care cuts. So what did the union do? Well, we researhed many different ways that the district can cut this $1.7 million that did not affect folks' health care, that did not affect their salaries, that was not on the backs of the workers, of the men and women who work these jobs every single day. And so hopefully the recommendations that we made to the emergency manager, the recommendations that we made to the school board will help to affect some change for our members. Another huge issue that DPS is facing today is over 170 vacancies, teaching vacancies within our district. And as I'm talking about these things, and we know that there's some major uncertainty around DPS now, and we don't know what DPS is going to look like, in a few months. The one thing that I never hear people talking about is teaching and learning. Folks don't talk about the effects that these things are having on the children of the city and how it negatively affects and impacts their quality of learning. Over 170 vacancies within our district. that means that 170 classrooms don't have a certified, qualified teacher to teach them the lessons that they need. And so, you know, one of the jobs that I have, and along with AFT Michigan and Nikhol specifically, is getting community folks to understand that these things are happening and they're very, very real. And we're in a time now where we have to protect our children. We have to protect our children, and the decisions that folks are making are impacting them. And so who's fighting for them? Who's fighting for kids? Who's fighting for them? And that's one of the charges that we have at the DFT and as well as AFT. So over 170 vacancies clearly will impact the class size. We have some of our classrooms that have 40 or better children in them. And you know, like I know, in a classroom with 40 kids in it, who's learning anything? Who's learning anything? Research will tell you in an elementary setting, 18 to 25 students in an elementary setting is best for learning. 30 to 35, or no more than 35 in a high school setting is best for learning. But once again, who's talking about that? Who's discussing teaching and learning? So you can imagine how difficult it is to maintain or retain quality teachers within our district. There's no line to teach in DPS. There's not a line of folks who are waiting to take these positions. And unfortunately, we've come to the point where there's a huge teacher shortage in Detroit. And you know, there are many reasons for that, of course. The attacks on public education as a whole, the low salaries, the low salaries, the healthcare cuts, and you can just imagine, you know, why no one wants to take these positions. And so it's put a huge strain on the quality of education that DPS can provide. But with all that being said, you know, we still have some dedicated folks within our bargaining unit, not just teachers, but also our clerical folks and our parents who are here, you know, who could have left when a lot of folks left for higher paying jobs in school districts in the Metro Detroit area, but are still here today, fighting every day, giving the best that they can to increase student achievement here in Detroit. But we just hope that, you know, the folks in Lansing and the folks on the periphery know and understand that the sacrifices that we're making here are in the best interest of